It was a crisp October morning when I, Daniel Harper, decided to install a smart security system around my modest two-story home in the sleepy suburb of Willow Creek. As a freelance cybersecurity consultant, I spent most of my days hunched over my laptop in my upstairs office, troubleshooting code and securing networks for clients across the globe. Living alone, I'd always felt a vague unease about the quiet isolation of my cul-de-sac, especially after a string of petty thefts hit the neighborhood the previous summer. The system wasn't extravagant. A few motion sensors, a couple of discrete outdoor cameras, and a sleek video doorbell that had become as ubiquitous as mailboxes in modern subdivisions. I figured it would give me peace of mind, a digital sentry to watch over my little corner of the world. 2 days later, I found a neon yellow notice taped to my front door. The bold, blocky text screamed unapproved exterior modification like an accusation. My brow furrowed as I scanned the note, signed by none other than Eleanor Grayson, the iron-fisted president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association. Eleanor was a local legend, a retired paralegal turned self-appointed guardian of neighborhood uniformity. With her sharp bob haircut, pastel cardigans, and an ever-present clipboard, she wielded her authority like a scepter, issuing edicts about lawn heights and mailbox colors with the fervor of a dictator. I'd heard whispers about her at the annual block party how she'd once fined a family $50 a day for leaving a tricycle in their driveway overnight, but I'd never had the misfortune of crossing her path directly. Until now. I pulled up the HOA bylaws on my laptop, scrolling through the dense legalese. Section 8 covered exterior changes, structural additions, paint colors, fences. Nothing about security cameras. Armed with this, I dialed the number on the notice. Eleanor answered on the second ring, her voice clipped and nasal, dripping with the kind of smugness that made my jaw clench. "Mr. Harper," she began, not waiting for me to speak. "Your surveillance equipment hasn't been approved by the board. It's an eyesore, and frankly, it suggests we have a crime problem. Remove it within 48 hours. I took a deep breath, forcing calm into my tone. "I've reviewed the bylaws, Eleanor. There's no rule against security systems. Section 8 only mentions structural changes and aesthetics like paint. This doesn't qualify." A pause stretched across the line, long enough that I could hear the faint tap-tap-tap of her manicured nails against something hard her desk. Maybe. "Well," she said finally, her voice tightening, "we're amending the bylaws at next month's meeting. Until then, those cameras need to go, or you'll face daily fines. This is a respectable community, not some gated fortress. I'll be at the meeting to discuss it," I replied, my patience thinning. "But until the rules officially change, my system stays." I hung up before she could retort, my pulse ticking up a notch. I hadn't meant to start a war, but Eleanor's tone like she owned the very air I breathed lit a stubborn spark in me. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a notification from my security app. I opened it to find grainy footage of Eleanor herself, standing on my porch at 6:07 a.m., taping another notice to my door. She wore a peach blazer and glared directly into the doorbell camera, her lips pursed into a thin, furious line. The notice cited improper storage of garden coiled hose I'd left by the garage. I chuckled at the pettiness, but the amusement faded as the notices became a daily ritual. Excessive grass clippings, 4 blades. Unauthorized porch decor, a single-potted mum. Each time, she'd stare into the camera with a venom that felt personal, her scowl deepening with every visit. I started attending HOA meetings, dragging myself to the community center where folding chairs squeaked against linoleum and stale coffee perfumed the air. There, I learned I wasn't alone. A young couple, the Millers, had been fined for a birdhouse deemed too whimsical. An elderly widower, Mr. Patel, lived in terror of Eleanor's clipboard after she'd cited him for a cracked driveway tile. When the security system amendment came up, I arrived armed with a petition, 32 signatures from neighbors who wanted cameras allowed. I presented it with a steady voice, citing safety concerns and the recent thefts. Eleanor's eyes narrowed as the board tabled the amendment for review, a rare crack in her armor. Afterward, she cornered me by the exit, her floral perfume cloying. "You think you're smart, don't you, Daniel?" she hissed, her smile tight and venomous. "I've kept this neighborhood pristine for 9 years. You'll see compliance is easier than defiance." Her words carried an edge that prickled my skin, a promise of something darker than fines. The next day, my security app pinged, all cameras offline. I checked the connections, rebooted the router, nothing. The security company confirmed their end was fine, so I reset the system manually. The cameras flickered back to life, but the previous 24 hours of footage had vanished. A glitch, I told myself. But when it happened again 3 days later, then again I knew better. As a cybersecurity expert, I recognized a pattern: deliberate interference. Someone was targeting my network. I didn't confront Eleanor yet. Instead, I set a trap. I rigged a decoy camera, a tiny, weatherproof unit disguised as a sprinkler head, and connected it to a hidden network she couldn't detect. Then I installed monitoring software on my main system, designed to log every intrusion attempt. The next morning, the trap snapped shut. My software flagged multiple brute force attacks, clumsy but persistent, all traced to an IP address across the street to Eleanor's house. The decoy camera caught her too, a shadowy figure in a hooded jacket, fiddling with something near my Wi-Fi extender at 2 a.m. I zoomed in on the footage. Beneath the hood, a flash of her signature pearl earrings glinted in the streetlight. This wasn't just HOA overreach, it was a crime. I contacted my security provider, who confirmed that unauthorized access to my system violated the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, a federal offense. They urged me to call the police. I did, handing over logs and footage. Detective Ramirez, a stocky man with a no-nonsense mustache, took one look at the evidence and nodded grimly. "We'll need more to nail her," he said. "Keep documenting. We'll build the case." For 2 weeks, I played cat and mouse. Eleanor grew bolder, waving at my cameras with a smirk before they went dark. She didn't know my decoy was recording her every move, or that each hack left a digital fingerprint tying her to the intrusions. Then came the breaking point. An email from my security company flagged unusual access. Someone had viewed live footage from my office camera, where I'd been working late, unshaven and in boxers. The violation hit me like a punch. I marched to the station with every scrap of evidence: logs, footage, timestamps. 3 days later, I stood at my kitchen window, coffee in hand, as 2 squad cars and an unmarked sedan rolled up to Eleanor's house. Officers knocked, and her voice, shrill and indignant, carried across the street. "This is outrageous. I'm a respected member of this community." The detective flashed a warrant, and they entered. 20 minutes later, they emerged with her laptop, a router, and a USB drive. Eleanor trailed them, her face a storm of fury, until Ramirez said something that froze her mid-step. She climbed in her car and sped off, tires squealing. Ramirez called me that afternoon. They'd found hacking tools on her device's rudimentary software. She'd likely bought off the dark web plus screenshots of my office, time-stamped and saved. The DA charged her with felony counts: unauthorized access, wiretapping, invasion of privacy. Potential prison time loomed. The HOA board convened an emergency meeting the next week, sans Eleanor, who'd resigned in disgrace. Her replacement, a soft-spoken accountant named Marjorie, apologized publicly and voided all pending violations. The board passed a resolution greenlighting security systems, met with relieved applause. A week later, a certified letter arrived from Eleanor's lawyer, offering $20,000 for emotional distress if I drop any civil suit. That same day, the Willow Creek Gazette reported her plea deal: a $35,000 fine for years probation, 250 hours of community service. Her paralegal certification was revoked, her reputation shredded. I was mulling the offer when my doorbell camera pinged. There she stood, Eleanor Grayson, a ghost of her former self. Her hair was unkempt, roots stark against faded blonde. Her designer blazer swapped for a frayed sweatshirt. She glared up at the lens, mascara streaking her cheeks. "Are you satisfied, Harper?" she screamed, her voice raw and cracking. My life's in ruins me career, my standing all because of your damn cameras. I made this neighborhood perfect, and you tore it apart. She jabbed a trembling finger at the camera, swaying slightly. They're voting tomorrow to exile me from my own home. You've won, you smug bastard. Headlights flashed as a patrol car turned the corner, and she bolted, tripping over the curb in her haste. I watched her disappear into the dusk, a mix of pity and vindication settling in my chest. The next day, the board voted 6-1 to let her stay, citing compassion over punishment. But Eleanor didn't show at the meeting or any after. Rumors swirled. She'd sold her house at a loss, moved to an apartment downtown, faded into obscurity. My cameras stayed up, silent sentinels against the quiet street. And Willow Creek, it breathed easier, free from the shadow of Eleanor Grayson's clipboard. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.